Hello, hello, and greetings. This is day 11 of our live, my 21 days live. I am waiting for, there we go, Instagram. Beautiful. Hello, folks. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today is Monday. It is day 11 of our 21-day live. And today we're talking about finding closure and acceptance through divorce. And this is a topic that a number of our followers asked me to talk about, especially people who are in uh, marriages that have lasted decades. And I'm really talking, 25, 35, 40 years. And so these individuals asking really, a really good question. How do you even begin to process, accept, and move forward when you've spent maybe more of your adult life in partnership in a marriage than you have single in your younger years? And so there's a number of things that I just want to touch base on today to support you in this. And the first one is really honoring and acknowledging what a huge transition that this is for you. And a lot of times clients uh, start out saying, I don't want this. I want to stay married. And so this is one approach is, if that's you, if you're really in full resistance that this is happening, one of the big clarifying questions to ask yourself is, uh, am I afraid that I'm going to miss the marriage, right? The companionship, the family home, the paradigm of what I've had, or am I going to miss um, the person, right? And so it's like it's a huge difference. Like, I am so used to being in companionship that I don't want to lose it, even if I agree that there are problems with the marriage, as opposed to, um, I really miss this person. I really want this person. Like, I believe that this is worth saving. And so, even if you're heading down the divorce path, getting clear on that is going to be helpful. And especially for those of you who do come to the conclusion that, and this is where I find most people end up, is that it's the companionship and the family home and that piece, the partnership, that they're fully resisting leaving and just being single in the world, which is really hard and scary after being in partnership for so many years, versus actually really, really believing that that the marriage could be healthy, that the partner is the one that you want. And so that's not everybody, but it's a really good place to start, is to really honor and acknowledge, like, this has been decades of your life, and this transition, it's kind of like turning a cruise ship, right? It's not a speedboat. It's not turning really quickly. This is a very slow transition that you have to go through because of the amount of years under your belt. And along with all of those years under your belt could be that you have adult children with a lot of opinions too. So not only are your own emotions very big and strong and complicated to work through, but you may be dealing with adult children who are having equally as a hard a time, and you may find yourself on the defensive. And so having a solid support team, giving yourself a lot of compassion and grace, that it's a messy transition, and you've been in partnership for so long. It's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit bumpier. And that brings me to my second point, which is, it is so important to understand the grieving process and to honor that you're in denial, right? So the five of the key stages people talk about is denial, depression, anger, bargaining, and then ultimately acceptance. Hi, Sean. I'm so glad you joined. And so understanding that process, understanding what it means to go through the grieving process, is really helpful, first and foremost, because it helps us judge ourselves less. If you're stuck in denial, somebody else might be judging you, but if you know that this is really hard for me. I'm not ready to accept this. Maybe he or she is just having a midlife crisis. Maybe they're interested in someone else. Maybe it's just a phase. Like, it makes so much sense to be in that denial. And then after that, you really start bouncing around. You can get really angry. How could you do this? How could you destroy our family? You could get very depressed. You can start negotiating, bargaining, trying to like get them to try again. Or And so all of that is, it's not a linear process. One day you could wake up and think, oh, I'm actually doing pretty good today. And a couple of hours later, you could be right back in the thick of it. So, number one, understanding the grieving process. And if that's you and you don't have any resources, just type grief in the comments and I will drop. I think I did this earlier in the live, but I will drop an article and a podcast that really talks about grief through divorce that can be really helpful for you. And so the other part is having emotional support. If you're working with a therapist or a divorce coach, someone who can help be that healthy sounding board and help you articulate what you're thinking, what you're feeling, the stories that you're telling yourself, and help you work through that and process that. And that piece brings me to the next piece, which is the stories that we tell ourselves. One of the things that I talk so much about is mindset and emotional regulation. Like, we think of divorce and we think, the courts and hiring an attorney and the finances and the kids. And that's such a big part of it. But a lot of times people don't realize how big the mindset and the emotions are in that process. And when you can slow things down and really honor your all of your emotions, the whole range of emotions, and begin to look at what are the stories that I'm telling myself and see what's true, what I want to be true, or what's more comfortable for me to think or believe. That's going to help so much. And yeah, Carrie just commented, grief is such a natural reaction to loss. And there are so many losses to deal with in divorce. It's such a multidimensional transition. And again, when you're 20, 30 plus years in a marriage, there are even more dimensions. There's so many relationships, right? It's like you've now been in relationship with your in-laws for decades, and you've got nieces and nephews, and the same thing with your social circle, right? It's deeper, it's older, it's more familiar, and now all of this begins to fall apart. And learning how to grasp, learning how to deal with all of that. So the key thing here is grief. You're not going to get closure until you can process your grief. And processing grief involves understanding how grief works, and then having a safe person to talk to. If you're a journaler, doing a lot of writing around your feelings, and that release, like, part of it is processing and then releasing it so that you don't have all of that pain and hurt and anger that's lodged in your heart. Uh, and the next thing I want to say is, when you get to this point, so if you're a little bit further along, beginning to imagine your future self, creating an avatar of your future self. And if you're deep in denial right now, your response to me is going to be like, no bloody way. It's not happening. There is no future self. I like myself now. And that makes sense. That tells you you're still in that very early stage. But as you begin to work through your grief, part of what we experience clients saying all the time is like, what is it that you had to put on the back shelf, that you had to give up when you got married? Maybe you loved photography, or you did a lot of outdoor things that you haven't been able to do since you had children. You know, maybe you used to go to comedy clubs or go out and dance when you were younger. And so beginning to say, if I could get beyond my grief, if I could create my ideal world, if there were no fears, there was nothing stopping me, what would that look like? And that's the beginning of dreaming about possibility, of looking at who you are, what you're made up of, what really blows your skirt up, what makes you flow, and begin to imagine yourself in that place. I just recently interviewed a travel coach, and she was talking about how she exited this really difficult divorce and then realized that the thing that she had missed the most was travel. And it actually became not only something that she did regularly, but something that's also now part of her profession in supporting other divorcing individuals to dip their toe back in their travel bug and enjoy that. And so, whatever that is for you, that's another key piece. And the other thing is that you need to build your social circle, right? So, the truth is, in divorce, we lose we lose family members, in-laws, and we lose friends. We have friends who choose the other spouse. We have friends who kind of fade away because as we become a single person, there's less in common. We have friends who are uncomfortable, and so they walk away from both parties because it's too uncomfortable for them to engage. And so, what do? The older we get, the harder it is to find new friends. And so, just a couple of tips on this. If you do have a religious community, a house of worship. That's a beautiful place to get involved and to volunteer and to go to events and meet like minded people, um, or any other type of community, like if you're in yoga or a meditation center or anything like that. And if that isn't your jam, I have found that one of the best resources for people who are emerging from divorce and trying to recreate a social circle and interest is to go to meetup.com. And meetup.com is amazing because whether your interest is in outdoor things or crafts or photography or book clubs or museums or comedy clubs or anything under the sun, you can find a group of people who are gathering around that. There are divorce support groups there are business groups, there are networking groups. I mean, there's just everything under the sun. So you may be, if you're in a reasonably populated place, go to meetup.com, meetup.com, and you can explore what's in your area. And once you sign up, which is free, you just use an email address, you can actually tick off everything that you're interested in, and then they'll inform you when new groups open up. For me, for so many of my clients, Meetup was a great beginning to dip their toe in. And the truth is, the people who go to Meetup events are other singles. And so while it's so uncomfortable to show up to a party by yourself that you haven't been invited to, Meetup isn't like that. And after you go to one or two events, you'll notice that you walk in, everybody's kind of in the same boat. They're there often alone to meet other new people. So many of my clients have found girlfriends. A lot of my female clients just met a girlfriend at a meetup, started doing meetups together, maybe even started dating or doing like speed dating together. And so it's a great way to get out there that's safe and reasonably comfortable. And then my last suggestion is keeping yourself busy, especially if you're struggling a lot and you just don't know where to start. Volunteer. Go volunteer at a pet shelter, volunteer at a food bank, volunteer someplace. Volunteer work is amazing because you put yourself in a position of service. So now you're serving others. Oftentimes, you're going to be serving other people who have different struggles than you, maybe bigger struggles than you. My dad, when he was going through his divorce, he loved dogs. And so he went and he would volunteer at a pet place that did adoptions, and it was his favorite time of the week was just to go and hang out with the puppies and talk to the other dog lovers and support people who were coming by to see if they wanted to adopt a pup. So there are plenty of options. Even just Googling, volunteer opportunities by me is a great thing to do. And so I just really want to acknowledge you. For those of you who are divorcing after 20, 30, 40 plus years married, those gray divorces, they're particularly hard on everyone because you've had that foundation of the family for so long. And yet, with the right mindset, healthy processing of grief, and a plan of action and forward thinking, you can create the next chapter of your life being the best chapter. And that's really what I wish for you. So if you have a topic that you would like to hear about, you can post it or you can email info@journeybeyonddivorce.com. We have a number of days left that I have not yet put topics on. We've got 10 days left, 11 days left to the live challenge. So let me know and I'll add it to our editorial calendar and I will see you again tomorrow. I hope you found value in today's live. All for now.